Tarquinius ut regnum reciperet, ad lartem porcenam clusinum regum fugit. Okay, Tarquinius is our subject. We have an ut, boring purpose clause here. Notice we know it's a purpose clause. Well, we've got ut plus a subjunctive. No other stuff going around, and it makes sense. It answers the question, why? Why did Tarquinius do this stuff? Let's see. Ad lartem porcenam. Okay, Lars Porsena, new character. He is our new bad guy. And where is Lars Porsena? At Clusinum, another locative. And Lars Porsena, of course, is the king. And Tarquinius fled to him, the king, at Clusinum. Ei persuasit, ne regum Etruscae sanguinis rego privari pateretur. Okay, so Ei refers to Lars Porsena, and the subject is still Tarquin. So Tarquin persuaded him, and hopefully you remember that this would introduce an indirect command. You persuade somebody about a subjunctive clause. So he persuaded him, and then instead of an ut, we have a ne, and that's because when you persuade someone not to do something, it takes a ne, because that's the opposite of ut. So this is where our indirect command is. Notice, again, we've got our subjunctive verb. He persuaded him not to allow this accusative infinitive construction, not to allow the king, what kind of king? Of Etruscan sanguinis. Because remember, the first Tarquin was Tarquinius Priscus, who was actually Lucamo, and he was from Etruria. Okay, so Tarquinius persuaded Lars Porsena not to allow the king of Etruscan blood. Then we're continuing on, and this is an infinitive. Notice it's passive. So the king to be deprived of what? Of his kingdom, and that is an ablative of separation, because you're being separated from the kingdom there. Okay, keep going. Porsena Romam infestu exercitu venit. Okay, subject, Romam, locative, to Rome, infestu exercitu. So apparently it was a pretty freaky, scary army. Ablative. And then vena, of course, is your main verb. So Porsena came to Rome with this. Magnus terror senatum occupavit. Ad eo firma res Clusina tum erat magnumque Porsenae nomen. Okay, subject, a ginormous fear or terror. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's the easiest sentence we've had in like a week. Subject, direct object, verb. To such a degree, to such an extent, firma res, that is an adjective describing the race. And what kind of race? Res Clusina. So the state of Clusina was so strong, and at that time, tum magnum nomen. So that goes there. So why was the Senate so freaked out? Because Clusina was such a cool place, and the name, whose name, Porsena's name, was so great. Cum hostes adessent, omnes in urbem ex agris veniunt, urbemque ipsam muniant praesidiis. Okay, we've got cum here, when, since, because, although, or with. Well, there's no ablative, and it's got a subjunctive clause. So it's one of those cum clauses. Is it an although? No, because we don't have a however on the other half of the sentence. So it is either going to be a causal clause answering the question, why does this stuff happen? Or a temporal clause explaining at exactly what time, or a circumstantial clause kind of describing the background information during the main clause. So we will hold that thought and see. But here's the subject, and here's your subjunctive verb. Everyone in urbem, prepositional phrase, another prepositional phrase. Everyone came. Where did they come? There, from there. And what else did everyone do? Urbemque ipsam. We've got a demonstrative adjective modifying urbem. Oh, and here's our verb. So they did this thing, and they did this thing. And they did it with praesidiis. Okay, so what kind of clause do you think this is? Does it answer the question when? Does it answer the question why? Does it answer the question about what was going on in the background? I really think this is a why. Why did everybody come into the city and fortify stuff? Because the bad guys were coming to kick their butts. Alia loca muris, alia tiberi objecto, Whiteboard tuta. Okay. New subject, some places. Notice we've got alia and alia. Whenever you have that kind of construction, it's always some and others. Notice the word loka is gapped over here. It's understood, loka. Okay, so it's plural. Some places with this ablative, other places with tabiro obiecto. Oh, and then here's the verb. They seemed what? How did they seem? Tuta, safe. Notice video in the passive always means to seem, not were being seen. Some places seemed safe because of this or because of this thing. Pons sublicius tamen iter paene hostibus dedit, ni unus vir fuisit, Horatius Cocles, qui forte ad pontum positus erat. Okay, so we're getting to this famous landmark, the Sublician Bridge, which you cannot see anymore because, well, it was old back when the Romans were alive, and now they're all dead, and so is this bridge. So the Pons Sublicius, that's our subject. However, iter, neuter noun, but since we already have a nominative, this is most likely accusative. Paine almost did this. Oh, and then here's your verb. So Pons Sublicius almost gave an iter to the dative there. Ni is unless one guy, fuisit, subjunctive, except if one guy hadn't been there, if he had not been there, the Pons Sublicius would have given it, but it didn't because he was there. And who is that guy? Our hero, Horatius Cocles. Notice that's the name of this chapter. So unless one guy had been there, Horatius, and the Romans apparently got lucky because inside this relative clause we have the word forte, which means in this instance by chance, not fortis, which means strong, which is kind of confusing because we can assume that Horatius was strong, but in this instance it means by chance. Who by chance? Prepositional phrase ad pontum, positus erat, pluperfect passive verb, positus, fourth verb part, plus erat. Okay, Clusino repentino impetu ianiculum caperent, atque inde volacater ad flumen decurebant. Okay, the Clusini, those are the people from Clusina, which is, of course, the town that Lars Porsena, the Etruscan king, is from. So the Clusini guys, with a sudden ablative, what did they do? Oh no, they took the Ianiculum. Remember, we saw way back when, I think it was Superbus, he built a bridge from the at the Ianiculum that crossed the Tiber River, this Pons Sublicius. Well, that kind of becomes a problem because if your enemy takes the hill to which the bridge is attached, they can cross the bridge and come kill you all. Oh no. So the bad guys got the bridge, and then quickly they were hurrying down to this prepositional phrase. Looks like a problem for the Romans. Cocles cum suos fugere vidisset, oravit eos ut manerent, et pontum rescinderent. Okay, so what does our hero Horatius Cocles do? Well, he does it. When does he do it? When, sounds temporal to me, when he had seen, oh, and look, this is an indirect statement talking about what he had seen. He had seen that suos. That's kind of tricky, but you remember this from Caesar. They do it all the time. The Romans refer to suos, their guys, i.e. the Roman army. When he had seen that his guys did this, here's your main verb, he begged them, and that introduces in turn another indirect command. Okay, so how do we know we have an indirect command? Well, we've got this word begging, which is one of the clues. When you're trying to get someone to do something, it takes an indirect command. And we have an ut and a subjunctive verb. Oh, the other stuff in an indirect command. And notice we have verb 1 and verb 2. So he begged them to do this and to do this to the bridge. Hey, did you notice the sneaky Latin author trick they're doing? All of a sudden we have another accusative, infinitive thing going on. So what's happening here is we have another indirect statement, but the author didn't bother to give you the main verb saying Cocles said. He just assumes you know because of what's going on. He said, so it's understood, and I'll even write it up here for you. Dix it, and that's understood to be right here. He said that And here's what he said, and it's probably going to go to here. Okay, so the subject is he. He said that he. And then we have a direct object, the attack. Whose attack? The attack of the bad guys. And before we get to the rest of it, we've got this little, looks like an indirect question there, but we'll get there in a second. He said that he, exceptorum esse, there is the infinitive verb of your indirect statement. He said that he, notice it's future active, would do this to the attack of the bad guys as much as unus possit, one guy was able to do this. All right, so why is this an indirect question? Because the word quantum is a QU question word, so that can introduce an indirect question all by itself. As much as one guy is able to do this, he said that he would receive the attack or withhold the attack of the enemy as much as possible. Processit inde in primum aditum pontus ipsaque audacia turbavit hostes. Oh, what a hero. Processit. Of course, that is the verb with Horatius Cocles as a subject. So Horatius proceeded then. Where did he proceed? To the primum adiutum. Notice adiutum is a noun there. Pontus goes with that. And with this ablative phrase, he did this to the enemy. Duos tamen cum eo pudor tenuit. I think this is SP stands for spurious. Spurium larcium et, and I think this T is for Titus, or maybe Tiberius, I can't remember. And T Herminium. Ambos claros genere factisque. Okay, so we've got these new characters on the scene, but first we'll get there. Notice those two characters are accusative. However, cum, when, since, because, although, sometimes with, but we actually have an ablative here, so it's probably just with. With him. With who? Who is this guy here? Probably Horatius. With him. Oh, there's your subject. So, however, the subject verbed the direct objects with him. And then here is the phrase that names those two guys right here. And we also have an adjective modifying them. Notice we've got all these accusative plurals. Duos and claros. Ambos also. And so this whole thing goes with those guys. So it describes them together, born famous from genere, from their family, and from their deeds. So apparently these are like super cool guys from good families, and they hung out with him. Cum his primam pugnam paulisper sustinuit. With these guys, probably those two here. Primam pugnam, there's your direct object. We can bracket that off because it's another noun-adjective pair. Paulisper, boring adverb, and sustinuit, of course, is a singular verb referring to Horatius Cocles. So Horatius sustained with these guys this direct object for a little bit. Diende eos parva parte pontus relicta cadere in tutum usit. Okay, eos. Okay, it's plural accusative, probably going back to the two guys as opposed to the one guy. So those guys in the accusative. Hey, do you recognize this construction? I see ablative, ablative, ablative. Oh, looks like an ablative absolute, and we translate that as with noun participle. So with this noun, having been relicta, and Pontus, of course, talks about that. But we're still waiting. Those guys to give way. In tutum. Oh, and then here's our main verb. So Horatius ordered this accusative to do this infinitive, because that's what you do. You always use it takes an accusative infinitive construction. Then Horatius ordered these guys to do this. Why? After this was done, when this was done. Pudor ende commovit Etruscos, et clamore sublato undique in unum hostum tela con iciunt. Okay, pudor, there's our subject again. Modesty, shame. Okay, adverb. Verb, direct object. Subject, verb, direct object. Well, that's about as easy as it can get. And what else happened? Oh, another ablative absolute. With the noise having been sublatoed, undique from all sides, another prepositional phrase here, in unum hostum tela, that is accusative, and the subject of conjunct is the Etruscans. So first, subject, verb, direct object, and then the Etruscans become the understood subject. The Etruscans conjunct tela. Where? On the sky. When this was done. Diende ponte paene ricisso, cochles armatos in tiberum desiluit, in colomisque ad suos tranavit. Okay, and then, look, another ablative absolute. Paene, this is like the 900th time you've seen this word. Hopefully you remember what it means. And then, with the bridge, having been almost that, our subject is cochles. And, by the way, he has weapons. Armatus, nominative singular. Okay, prepositional phrase. Where did he jump? Well, where else would you jump if the enemy is shooting all their weapons at you and you're standing on a bridge? Into the river. In colomisque, there is an adjective describing our hero. In colomis, ad suos. We just talked about that, ad suos. Remember, it's an understood towards his guys, i.e. his army. Tranavit is, of course, the verb. Gratia erga tantam virtutum civitas fuit. You think? Okay, let's see. So, gratia, this is a linking sentence. Gratia was civitas, or you could say civitas was gratia. The state was grateful. Erga is a preposition that takes an accusative. We don't get to see it that much, but there it is. Because of this thing, the civitas was grata. And this is what they did. Statua eus in comitio posita est, et agri quantum uno die circum aravit datum est. Okay, oh look, a statue. And what about the statue? Well, it's there. And then we have our perfect passive verb. So, subject, verb. The statue was put, a statue of him was put there. But the next part is cool because not only does he get a statue, but they give him this, but he kind of has to work for it, which is kind of lame because I think he just saved the world. Okay, the subject here is quantum. As much of that. Actually, let's put that arrow going the other way. As much of that. Okay, so there's your subject. And then we have an ablative of time when on one day that he could circumambit, which literally means to plow around. So as much of land as he could plow around on one day, so that is a thing that goes like that. That amount of land, datum est, was given to him. So they're not just going to give you land, but you have to make sure you can maintain it. So as much land as he could plow in one day is what he gets for saving the world, in addition to a fancy statue.